Sa Lunes, maglalahad ng kanyang report card ang Pangulo ng Pilipinas. Sa gitna ng pinakamahirap na pagsubok ng bansa sa mahabang panahon, alamin kung ano ang kanyang sasabihin ng mga nagawa ng administrasyon sa nakalipas na 12 buwan at kung ano ang mga programang nakalatag sa huling 2 taon ng Pangulo. Kasama ang Rated J sa pagtutok ng mga mahalagang kaganapan sa pamamagitan ng live feed mula sa Pilipinas. Nakatutok ang inyong mga pinagkakatiwalaan sa pagbabalita sa Singapore na sina Jun Rigonan at Dazzelyn Zapata. Kasama rin ang ilang political analysts ng mga overseas Filipinos. Ito ang special coverage ng State of the Nation Address ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. SONA 2020, The Rated J Special Coverage. Ngayong Lunes, July 27, dito lamang sa Rated J Facebook page. Mula sa aming tinutuluyan dito sa Singapore, magandang hapon sa lahat ng mga OFW dito sa Singapore at sa buong mundo. Welcome sa ating special news coverage ng Rated J sa ikalimang State of the Nation Address ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte.
Yan, magandang hapon sa ating lahat at salamat sa pag-antabay ninyo sa ating special coverage nga nitong SONA 2020. Partner.
Yes, partner. Parang alam ko yan. Parang alam ko na meron kang hindi ginawa. So magandang hapon mga ka-Rated J. Ito po ang aming special voluntary coverage para sa mga kababayan upang mas maintindihan ang mga mensahe ni Pangulong Duterte. Magandang hapon sa lahat ng mga nanonood dito sa Singapore and all over the world. Maraming salamat po sa inyong patuloy na pagtitiwala. Ako po si Jun Rigonan.
At ako naman po si Dazzelyn Zapata.
At good afternoon, partner. Magandang hapon sa lahat ng ating mga viewers. Sana ay pumasok muna ang mga kababayan natin. And in a few minutes ay mag-uumpisa na, hopefully on time, ang State of the Nation Address ng ating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte dyan sa Pilipinas. Magkakaroon tayo ng live feed mula sa Radio and Television Malacanang or RTVM para dito sa ating special coverage ng SONA 2020. Yes, go ahead, partner. Naririnig mo ba ako, partner?
Oh, narinig kita, partner. Meron na kayo na. Habang nakaantabay tayo, follow up lang natin. May mga makakasama kasi tayo ngayong hapon para nga dito sa coverage natin, para makapagtanong tayo, magtatanong tayo sa mga eksperto na talagang ito yung tutok nila, no? Yung polisiya at pamamalakad, yan sila yung mga makakasama natin. Teka lang.
Correct. Hinihintay lang natin yung ating mga bisita, no? Pero bago yan siguro i-run through natin, partner, yung mga kaganapan noong nakaraang taon sa ating sa naganap na State of the Nation Address ni Pangulong Duterte. Okay, so last year marami siyang mga sinabi, ano, isa na rito, pinagmalaki niya yung landslide victory ng administrasyon sa nakalipas na election noon at pati na rin sa survey results na ang kanyang disapproval rating noon ay 3%. Sa taong ito kaya ano ngayon ang kanyang disapproval rating. At sabi nga niya dito, partner, na believe me, I will end my term fighting. Yun ang sabi niya last year. So ito kasi yung marami siyang mga pinaglalaban. Ito na kasama rin rito, syempre yung top priority niya last year, which is yung illegal drug problem. So ngayong taon na to mukhang magbabago na rin siguro yung mga ibang mga priorities ng ating pangulo dahil sa pandemya nangyari ngayong taon na ito.
Yes, partner.
All right. At syempre binubuksan mo na, partner, yung ating kwan. Sabi rin niya dito, no, we have not learned our lesson. The illegal drug problem persists. Corruption continues and emasculates the courage we need to sustain our moral recovery initiatives. Kasi nga dahil nga sa patuloy pa rin ang illegal drug problems last year nung kanyang binasa itong kanyang SONA noong nakaraang taon. Kung kaya't talagang very decided siya na sana ay matapos na itong problema ng illegal drugs. Although Sabi nga niya, isa sa mga, one of the striking things that he said last year was ito, I respectfully request the Congress to reinstate death penalty for heinous crimes at related to drugs and of course to plunder. Okay. So yun yung
Yan,
ngayon.
oo. So actually, kung maalala mo yung last na SONA na yan, no, merong daming pumalakpak dyan sa sinabi niya about death penalty. So, abangan natin kung meron siya ulit sasabihin in relation to this sa kanyang ikalimang SONA partner.
Correct. Isa sa talagang pinaglalaban niya nga is magkaroon nga ng death penalty para sa heinous crimes related to drugs and also sa plunder. Para sa kaalaman siguro ng ating mga kababayan, ano ba tong plunder na to? Saan nga dito pala ang hindi pa pala ata po pwede si yung ating bisita, no? Pero just for the sake of our mga kababayans, plunder, ano nga ba ang plunder, partner?
Pag sinabi nating plunder, ito ay yung pag nanakaw sa kaban ng bayan, di ba?
Yes.
So,
And kasama na nga rito yung very controversial nga na PhilHealth issues natin, ano? At isa sa mga nabanggit nga niya itong last kanyang SONA is the recent uncovering of the massive fraud perpetrated against the public health insurance system. Pinapertin niya ata to partner yung sa PhilHealth, no? Proves that corruption is pervasive. Huge amounts of medical funds were released to cover padded medical claims and imaginary treatment of ghost patients. I am grossly disappointed, sabi niya noon last year. At I appointed a new PhilHealth president whom I know is a man of integrity, a military man, a former military officer, and gave him marching orders to prioritize ridding the agency of corruption. So last year pa nga lang pinag-uusapan na itong corruption sa PhilHealth, and until now, right at this moment, ito pa rin yung issue na kinakaharap nga ng PhilHealth. Isa sa mga very striking na kaganapan last week is itong pagre-resign ng isa sa mga empleyado nga ng PhilHealth dahil nga sa issue nga din daw ng corruption. Kumbaga siya ay nakasaksi ng isang Zoom meeting di umano kung saan ay nagkaroon ng sagutan at it was found that that corruption was very huge dito sa ahensya ng gobyerno na ito, which is the PhilHealth.
Itong isa kasi was very public kasi talagang nag-circulate yung resignation letter niya at pinag-usapan din natin to nung nakaraang Sabado sa mga interesado ng manood ng backstory dito. Medyo pinag-usapan namin yun ni partner. Pero very interesting ito, partner. Gusto ko ring abangan. So ano ang balita tungkol dito? Last year pa ito at actually is sila ngayon after nitong resignation na ito under the new leadership sinabi naman na personal interest daw or may personal na pinanggagalingan yung mga akusasyon. So ngayon parang ibig bang sabihin matapos ang isang taon walang na-address dito sa issue, 'di ba? Parang ganun yung nagiging dating. So very ako personally interesado akong marinig kung meron bang update tungkol dito kasi mula dun sa SONA from last year parang supposedly ma-anticipate natin sana ay magandang pagbabago. Pero alam naman natin just a few months back, 'di ba, nung isinabatas yung universal yung partner healthcare law, 'di ba? Na tayong mga OFW ay very much affected dahil ginagawang mandatory yung pagsingil sa atin. So medyo parang merong disconnect sa aking pananaw dito sa SONA from last year at yung nangyayari ngayon, patuloy na nangyayari ngayon sa PhilHealth. So very interested ako malaman kung ano ang update tungkol dito.
Okay, isa rin sa mga nabanggit ni Pangulong Duterte last year I commend the Bureau of Investigation for its handling of high-profile cases resulting in the arrest and prosecution of criminals. Maraming ang mga naging kontrobersyal nga na mga high-profile cases last year na ibinida ng Pangulo. Okay, at meron din ito, sabi nga niya dito, no, our government-owned and controlled corporations or GOCGs, infamous for high salaries and bonuses being paid their executives and employees, have started to shape up. As of July 9, 2019, we collected more than 61 billion from GOCGs or GOCCs or government corporations, 32% of which or 16 billion from PAGCOR. Ito nga, pilalakpakan nga ng maraming tao at inadres pa nga niya, sinaluduhan pa nga niya si Andrea Domingo who is in charge nga nitong sa PAGCOR ata siya.
Sinabihan niya possible pa daw ng mas may comment dun sa SONA na yan na magpasulat pang araw ng marami.
Okay. Ito pa. Talaga, ito sinabi nga naman niya is, we in government talk too much, act too little, and too slow. I recall saying that before the congressional hearing when I was in mayor of Duterte. So parang sinasabi niya na we are long on rhetorics but short on accomplishments. Kumbaga, daldal kayo ng daldal, wala namang ginagawa. Diba? It's either the Congress or even the executive department and maybe me, sabi niya mismo, pati daw siya mismo. So I am here to rectify my own error. Okay, sige, ipasok natin siguro ang ating bisita, partner. Pa-introduce na lang.
Yan, so makakasama natin. So muli magbabalik sa ating programa ang isa sa regular guest natin sa Rated J. Siya ay isang lawyer, si Attorney Rania Joya. Siya ay nakapagtapos ang Master in Public Policy mula sa Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy. At dati rin siyang lawyer ng isang ahensya ng gobyerno sa Pilipinas. Attorney Rania, magandang hapon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Magandang hapon sa iyo, Attorney. Pinag-uusapan lang namin yung mga content ng SONA ni Pangulong Duterte last year. Siguro join ka rin sa aming discussion kung ano na ba yung mga na-accomplish niya and so on and so forth. Again, mag-disclaimer tayo pala, no? The views and opinions of the hosts and the guests do not reflect the views and opinions of the management of this Facebook page and of the organizations that we belong. Okay? Para lang klaro sa ating lahat ng mga viewers that all our views are our own personal opinions. Okay? Si Attorney ay medyo very busy din sa kanyang pag-anay sa ngayon. Tama ba ako?
Baka mag-opinion din ang ating guest baby, si Rui. Mag-opinion din siya tungkol sa SONA.
Right. Kamusta ka pala, Attorney? Kamusta ang buhay-buhay ngayon?
Okay naman. Medyo busy nga with the baby, pero
thank you for making time for the program ulit, no?
Right.
Glad to be back.
Right. Attorney, babalikan lang namin yung mga ibang napag-usapan na namin kanina, no? We were talking about some of the issues that the president has highlighted during his last SONA. So isa sa mga sinabi niya is etong to reinstate the death penalty for heinous crimes related to drugs as well as plunder. Yun. Galit si baby dahil sa drugs.
Istorbo daw tayo, nap time niya kasi. Ayan siya. Hi,
Okay, ano ang mga opinion natin dito? Meron ba tayong masasabi dito about death penalty? Kasi ang alam ko, hindi pa rin, ano na ba ang latest ngayon in terms of death penalty sa Pilipinas? Will you guys know about it?
Hindi pa naman siya. Ewan ko kung nasa kasalukuyang nasa kongreso na. Hindi ako actually.
Hindi pa naman yun na ibalik sa pagkakaalam ko din.
Pero maraming kaganapan siguro, o dahil nga siguro sa kaganapan ngayon, kung kaya't maraming mga bills sa kongreso ang medyo na-adjust At may reprioritization siguro sila kung kaya't ganito yung inuuna nila muna ngayon.
Yan ang aabangan natin mamaya kung paano nagbago yung mga mula sa last year na mga nasabi, kung ano na yung priorities this year.
Just to let everyone know pala, kanina habang meron silang live feed mula sa sa Malacanang, ang sabi nila ay as of kanina mga 15 minutes ago ay wala pang ang kasiguraduhan kung si President Duterte ay magde-deliver ng kanyang SONA sa Kongreso o kaya sa Malacanang na lamang. So mukhang kakaiba talaga itong ating SONA sa taong ito dahil nga sa hindi pa malaman nga kung saan siya mismong mag-deliver ng kanyang SONA. Pero I don't think that is the case kasi syempre pinaghandaan na rin nila ang Kongreso, di ba? For sure, ni-ready na nila yon, sinet up na nila yung kanilang mga cameras doon. So parang hindi ako masyadong naniniwala sa statement nila na hindi pa sigurado sa ngayon kung saan talaga magsasalita si Pangulong Duterte. Unless may mga unforeseen circumstances ngayon sa Manila kung kaya't medyo hindi pa sila sigurado kung saan talaga ito gaganapin.
I think yung iba may mga nag-positive yata kasi sa swab test. So they were reconsidering, I think, until the last minute.
Oh, okay. So, nako, ganun na pala ka
Marami, meron ng two deaths dun sa huli kong alam. Hindi ko alam kung nadagdagan pa mula sa staff ng Kongreso. So, yun yung inaanohan nila na kaya baka hindi sa batasan. Pero siguro dahil alas 4 na, 'di ba? Supposedly dapat magsisimula na yung SONA. So,
okay, eto nga paumpisa na tayo. Let's
okay.
bring them to our coverage now. Yep.
Antabayanan niyo po kami, wag po kayong umalis after the SONA kasi makakasama pa nga natin si Attorney Rania at may makakasama pa tayo iba pa na mga yung magbabahagi sa atin ng kanilang mga political opinions.
All right, eto na siya.
SONA 2020, partner.
President of the Republic of the Philippines, Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
Kindly. Senate President Vicente Soto III and the honorable members of the Senate, House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano and the honorable members of the House of Representatives, Vice President Maria Leonor Robredo, former Presidents Joseph Ejercito Estrada and Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, Chief Justice Diosdado Peralta and the Justices of the Supreme Court, His Excellency Munter Mahfoud Salim Almantre, and the esteemed members of the Diplomatic Corps, Executive Secretary Salvador Mindaldia, and the members of the Cabinet, mga mahal kong kababayan. We live in a troubled time. a dream of prosperity for our country was suddenly snuffed by a pandemic virulent virus. No nation was spared, neither rich nor poor were exempt from the onslaught of this deadly disease. But let us not despair. The vaccine is around the corner. Sooner and not later, the virus that gobbled up thousands of lives will itself be laid to rest. In the meantime, let us express the nation's gratitude to those who courageously and willingly put their lives on the line to serve the people and country. We share the griefs of their families, and no amount of tears can compensate their great losses. My countrymen, it is sad that while government focuses its attention resources to battle the coronavirus, there are those who take advantage of a preoccupied government. One of them is Senator Frank Dillon. In an interview, he arrogantly mentioned, among others, that oligarchs need not be rich. Then he linked the anti-dynasty system with oligarchy, and the topic was my daughter and son. This happened after the Committee of Franchise voted 70-11 to deny the grant of franchise to ABS-CBN. Obviously, he was defending the Lopezes, that they are not oligarchs. Great wealth enable economic elites and corporations to influence public policy to their advantage. Media is a powerful tool in the hands of oligarchs like the Lopezes, who use their media outlets in their battles with political figures. I am a casualty of the Lopezes during the 2016 election. The dealers and purveyors of illegal drugs hiding in the shadow of COVID-19 have stepped up their activities. The amount of shabu valued at millions of pesos seized during police operations speak volumes of the enormity and the weight of the problem that we bear. The corrupt, the grafters, and the influence peddlers also take advantage of their fear and confusion that coronavirus generates the financial and material assistance of government to the unemployed, the sick, and the destitute, running into billions of pesos, are not spared from corruption and ineptitude. Even the donations for well-meaning private persons are schemed before reaching their intended beneficiaries. It is like snatching food from the mouths of the babes. The profiteers, overpricers, and the corrupt felons must be laughing while they stash their dirty monies, but not for long. They cannot outrun the long arm of the law. In this regards, the words of former President Ramon Magsaysay ring fresh and relevant today as the day they were said decades ago. He said, "We need men of integrity and faith like Rizal, and Del Pilar, men of action like Bonifacio, men of inflexible patriotism like Mabini. We need their zeal, their self-reliance, and their capacity to work, their devotion to service, and their ability to lose themselves in the common cause of building a nation. If we allow greed and self-interest and ambition to rule us, then, as stated by one prominent physician, we will be left with nothing better than the lesser evil instead of the greater good. In my inaugural address 4 years ago, I said that no leader can succeed at anything of national importance without significance unless he has the cooperation and support of the people he is tasked to lead and sworn to serve. The efforts and resources which we poured out produced the momentum needed to bring our country closer to our goals. Suffice it to say, we made significant strides over time. Over 4.3 million poor families benefited from the Pantawid Pamilya. Over 92.2 million beneficiaries received subsidies under the unconditional cash transfer program. We also made available tertiary education and universal health care. Public utility drivers were given assistance to the Pantawid Pasada program. There are complaints that some drivers did not receive any assistance at all. I have directed the SWD and DILG to look into this. I welcome the passage of the law postponing the barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections. The postponement saved much needed government funds and ensured the implementation of projects under the current barangay officials. In the hindsight, it also saved us from holding the polls while we dealt and continued to deal with the pandemic. The Malasakit Centers Act has proven to be a great help to our less fortunate citizens needing medical services through one-stop platform in government hospitals. We commend the initiative and work of Senator Bongo in this regard, as well as other significant pieces of legislation as of today. There are 75 malasakit centers serving Filipinos all over the country. These centers will be of great help in ensuring that our people remain healthy and resilient during these challenging times. The Salary and Standardization Law of 2019 increases the salaries of civilian government workers. I hope that this law will inspire our government workers to perform better and encourage young, brilliant citizens to join public service. I appreciate the law of establishing the National Academy of Sports. We can now give our deserving student athletes the training and the support they need to excel in their chosen field of endeavors. With the commitment of key members of Congress, the Executive Department, the FISGOC, or the Philippine Sports Commission, and the Philippine Olympic Committee, we're bound together with one vision to host the 30th Southeast Asian Games. Our athletes prevailed. More than that, we fostered pride, patriotism, genuine sportsmanship, and camaraderie in our South Asian brothers and sisters. Indeed, we won as one. To our business community and the general public, we assure you that the landmark ease of doing business and efficient government service delivery act has been gaining momentum. We are closer to eliminating overregulation in government services. Frontline processes, including consular services, processing of building and business permits, and the services of overseas Filipinos and seafarers were streamlined. Passports and driver's license validity were lessened to ease the burden of the public. We received a BBB plus credit rating despite ASEAN credit rating downgrades and negative outlook revisions worldwide. The Japan Credit Rating Agency upgraded us from BBB plus to A minus last month. Meanwhile, Moody's has affirmed and maintained the country's ratings at BB2, BAA2 rather. To understand, because with the light I have mine eyesight is not as good as new. Our fiscal position is strong, our economic fiscal management prudent, and our banking system robust. We are in a better position to weather the crisis caused by COVID-19 global pandemic. We have accomplished significant infrastructure projects under the Build program. I will not dwell lengthily on the nitty-gritty of our infrastructure accomplishments. Now, lest I bore you. Instead, we will release a comprehensive written report of our collective milestones and the details of accomplishments that remind us that perseverance, patience, determination will help us move forward even in the most difficult times. We issued last year the Executive Order number 100, establishing the Diversity and Inclusion Program as national program of the government. We want to end discrimination of persons on the basis of age, disability, ethnicities, sexual orientation, and gender identity and expression, and other character traits. My administration always believed that freedom from illegal drugs, terrorism, corruption, and criminality is itself a human right violation. Part of our efforts to uphold human rights is protection of the rights of children and the right against discrimination. Early last year, I signed Executive Order number 92, creating the National Council Against Child Labor. Government efforts to protect The rights of children will be amplified to prevent, reduce, and eliminate any form of child labor. Our achievements along this line will have been extolled by an overwhelming number of fellow member states in the UN Human Rights Council during its recently held 44th session last June. Rest assured that we will not dodge our obligation to fight for human rights. My countrymen, there are lessons to be learned from the coronavirus pandemic. It jolted us to realize that gains made after spending so much planning, effort, cost, and time could diminish considerably and quickly for reasons beyond one's anticipation. That it is much easier to destroy than build, that in a crisis of national proportion that affects every aspect of human life, government needs to have the support and cooperation of the people if it is to succeed in battling the cause of that crisis. That there are people who ask for compassion but show none themselves. That life, after all, is fickle like the weather. The gains we achieved for the first 3.5 years were put to a test when the pandemic suddenly struck the global community. While I am aware that the road towards a comfortable life would all be far easy if the pandemic had not occurred, and around the rest of the world we suffered. The global scale and socio-economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic has been unprecedented. Yet, in the throes of its global health emergency, we have been able to withstand the headwinds generated by this coronavirus. In this regard, I would like to express my gratitude to all those who made possible the steady supply of food, water, basic utilities of our households. And the provisions of basic social services and financial assistance to our people. Our profound gratitude goes to everyone who helped keep our country's food supply chain running, the valiant soldiers, policemen, and security guards who kept peace and order in our community. The dedicated personnel who kept our essential establishment operational. You showed us kindness and selflessness. You gave us strength. You risked your own lives to serve the greater good in keeping the Filipino spirit of bayanihan. I also thank the men and women of the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases and the National Task Force Against COVID-19 for all the countless hours it spent to keep the pandemic in check and for all the efforts it made to ensure the safety of our people. Let me also recognize the efforts of the local government units that step up and initiated their own response measures to contain effects of COVID-19 and its impact to their constituents have been impact to its constituents. The shadow says it's a period there. I know exactly the difficulties you are undergoing. I pray that the officials of each LGU in our country, from the barangay to the autonomous regions, would set aside partisan politics and selfish interest to do what is right and good for all. Likewise, I likewise issued Executive Order number 104, which imposed ceilings on retail prices of at least 133 drugs and medicines and directed a continuous review of the retail prices of others. This proved to be providential now that we are facing a pandemic. To everyone who helped us in this time of great need, maraming salamat po. Let me say that the strength of a nation rests in the hands of the people acting as one with government. In the pursuit of common goals and objectives, when the pandemic struck, I decided to prioritize life over other considerations according to experts. The intervention that the government had put in place prevented as much as 1.3 to 3.5 million infections. To me, even if the numbers were much lower, it would still be and would have been worth the sacrifice we made. Buhay muna bago lahat. We initially encountered difficulties ramping up our testing capacity. We now have 93 accredited testing laboratories nationwide, and we are aiming to conduct 1.4 million tests by end of July and ensure a quick turnaround time of 48 to 72 hours. Under the Social Amelioration Program, we allotted 2.5 billion or to 2.5 billion for poor and low-income households who were affected during this pandemic, who thrive on a no work, no pay arrangement. Admittedly, our implementation of the Social Amelioration Program was not perfect, and some opportunists turned crisis into opportunity. We will catch up with you sooner than you think. We came up with the COVID-19 Adjustment Measures Program, extended financial assistance to over 650,000 affected individuals in the formal sector, 110 OFWs abroad, and almost 83,000 repatriated OFWs were also provided temporary wage employment to displace marginal workers through the TUPAD project. Our indigent senior citizens were also provided with a stipend for the rest of the semester of the year current year. This health emergency stretched government's resources to its limits. In response to the Office of the President, worked closely with Congress for the quick passage of the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act. May I again reiterate my thanks to you, the men and women of Congress, for the effort you invested in passing that law. I hope that we can get some or the same treatment of clarity, purpose, and the fastness to support the passage of the Biennial Recover to act as one, which is supplement funds for recovery and response against the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. We must facilitate the country's economic recovery. A call on Congress to fast-track the passage of the proposed measure, such as the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives Enterprises or CREATE Act. This immediately cuts the corporate income levy from the current 30 to 25% and give government flexibility to grant a combination of fiscal and non-fiscal incentives, among others. The Financial Institutions Strategic Transfer, or First Act, will set up mechanisms allowing banks and other financial institutions to dispose of and transfer non-performing assets and loans to asset management companies similar to the special purpose vehicles. Our economic managers have seen infrastructure investment as an effective tool to help spur high growth, attract investments, create jobs, and achieve financial inclusion for all Filipinos. The DBP has resumed the construction of the North Luzon Expressway Harbor Link, the NLEX SLEX Connector, the Cavite-Laguna Expressway, the Metro Manila Skyway Stage 3, the R1 Bridge Project, the Tarlac-Pangasinan-La Union Expressway Project, and the Subic Freeport Expressway Project, to name a few. To realize the maximum benefit from the country's investments, the infrastructure projects under the Build, Build, Build program, which are labor and capital intensive, are not mere springboard to the country's swift recovery pandemic. They are economic benefits, to be distributed to all corners of the country and push sustainable stability in the urban centers, particularly Manila. The TESTA launched online mode of livelihood and skills training. There are 71 free online training to help upskill trainees for the right opportunities. I asked TESDA to come up with special training programs to retool our OFWs so they can find employment opportunities here and at home. I am also calling on the CHED for scholarship programs for the qualified dependents of our OFW. I direct the Department of Agriculture and DTI to come up with the agribusiness and entrepreneurship projects to help displaced OFWs rebuild their livelihood. Further, I ask the Land Bank and other government financial institutions to continue providing low interest loans to our OFW. Sa mga kababayan ko na naghihirap sa ibang bansa, nandito na ang inyong gobyerno para matulungan kayo at inyong mga pamilya, lalo na sa panahong ito. The government will intensify its efforts to help businesses, especially micro, small, and medium enterprises or MSMEs, by providing responsive government assistance and services capitalization and business operation support as we adapt to the next normal. Nananawagan po ako sa ating mga lessors. Nananawagan po ako sa ating mga lessors. Malasakit at bayanihan po ang sana ang pairalin natin ngayon. This is not the time to drive away laces. During normal times, they were the primary source of your income stream. Now, it's time to be fair and compassionate. Come up with an amenable arrangement with your tenants. Huwag po natin silang pagtabuyan, tanggalin ang tubig, kuryente at bubong. Commercial establishments are requested to give grace periods to allow deferment of payments, especially for MSMEs that were forced to close down during the quarantine period. Let us help them recover. We pump prime the recovery and rehabilitation of the MSMEs. The DTI to the Small Business Corporation set up the Philippine 1 billion COVID assistance to restart enterprises or CARES program to provide zero interest loans for MSMEs affected by the pandemic as of July 10, 2020. Over 2,600 loans applications worth more than 182.5 million have been approved. We are optimistic that this initiative will help our MSMEs stabilize and recover from their losses. I also join the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and the banks operating in the country to provide regulatory relief for our MSMEs and allow loan payment extension without incurring penalties and charges. We need your help to prevent the collapse of companies saddled with accumulated amortization and payables caused by closure of their businesses at the height of the strict quarantine periods. As we embark on this effort towards inclusive recovery, we should acknowledge that all forms of government support will go to naught if the new MSMEs do not thrive because of lack of consumer support. Ito ang panahon para suportahan natin ang ating mga kababayan na nagdinegosyo at gumawa ng mga produktong sariling atin. In the same manner, in tourism and recreation industries, which are among the hardest hit by the pandemic, count on our full support while we slowly try to put the fun back in your local travels. The national government agencies and LGUs must harmonize their policies to boost tourism, ensuring everyone's well-being. We enjoin our people to help boost the economy by traveling locally. Local na lang. Once the necessary system are in place. The DOST offers its enterprise technology upgrading program to enable businesses to access training that will help them transition to online and contactless operation. Now more than ever, we need to protect our consumers. I direct department, the Department of Trade and Industry to ensure the empowerment of Filipinos on consumer rights and coordinate strategies between public and private organizations in building a fair, safe, resilient, and sustainable economy. There are welcome developments for commerce and industry, but major economic activities take place in borderless environment with the meager regulatory controls. They expose consumers to various risks related to security, data, privacy, and misrepresentation. We must patrol the country's cyberspace and enforce online consumer and data protection and privacy laws. We must run after online scammers and those undermining the people's trust on the online transactions. We must continue to protect Filipinos in the normal and remind the world that we are responsible stewards of data. I am committed to protect both physical and digital lives of our law-abiding countrymen. The national government shall lead the way in our transition to online systems. I reiterate my call for all government instrumentalities to implement systems that shall make physical queuing a thing of the past. Panahon na para mawala na ang pila para mapagsilbihan ang gobyerno ng walang kahirapan para sa tao. The DILG, DBM, and the ARTA, along with all agencies and instrumentalities of government, are hereby directed to make full possible services available online. We need to adjust and adapt a paperless type of business and work performance. We need governance, e-governance, our people with the services they need and the comfort of their homes in the work or workplaces. It will enable us our bureaucracy to better transition into the new normal and cut and minimize red tape. Until the COVID-19 vaccine is available, I will not allow the traditional face-to-face teaching or learning unless the risk of exposure to the sickness are eliminated. I cannot and will not put to rest the health and lives of our students and teachers. About 2 weeks ago, I seem to have said that I would allow the face-to-face classes to resume. But we were talking actually of January, because my thinking is that by September, we would have the vaccine. How to get it from the producers or from other governments is really something which we have to deal with, because everyone, it's a global need. and everyone would go for it. But let me just mention it in passing that about 4 days ago, I made a plea to President Xi Jinping that if they have the vaccine, can they allow us to be one of the first, or if it's needed, if we have to buy it, that we will be granted credit so that we can normalize as fast as possible. Life that is lost is lost forever. Courses that are not substantial can be supplemented. Education that is delayed can be recovered. We must implement online learning, modular learning, and TV and radio-based broadcasts, which students coming from different backgrounds can avail. DepEd will provide the printed modules for those who cannot afford online learning. In support of the learning continuity program through blended learning, we plan to increase the number of schools with ICT equipment in the coming months. The DepEd and the DITC are building up the public education network or PEN that will connect all public schools and DepEd offices nationwide. We will prioritize the connection of all last mile schools and those with no electricity supply can have it via satellite and energized via solar panels. By 2022, before I step down, the pen shall be realized. I'm referring to the program. I will do it. TV frequencies reverted back to government for whatever cause or reason shall not be used exclusively to the exclusion of other persons or other dummies to cope up with the demand of the next normal. This will be used to provide uninterrupted quality education to our children in our shift to e-learning. I am directing Secretary Guevara, Secretary De La Peña, and Secretary Onasan in collaboration with Secretary Briones and Secretary Abisado, together with Secretary Dominguez, to come up with an integrated program and implementation mechanism to ensure that these TV frequencies are fully utilized by government through the facilities of the PTV4 for the utmost benefit of the Filipino people. Let me just allow me to segue a little bit. For the remaining 2 years of my term, all that is good that belongs to government, whether it be the airwaves, whether it be the lines, or whatever that is good for the people, will belong to the government, and it should be government who should be given the first option to utilize them. Ang sobra kanila. I call on our communication companies to improve their services lest we be forced to take drastic steps to address the less than deal service that the public is getting from you. Alam mo, sisingit na lang ako dito. I am sometimes you are a government pictured to be weak and incompetent because we cannot really force our mandate. Alam mo itong nagbibigay ng mga public services, you better improve. Huwag naman ninyo kaming pahintayin 10 taon bago kami makakamit ng mga services that the other countries are enjoying. If it's just a question of added capitalization or the infusion of money, go and look for it. Maghanap kayo because if you are not ready to improve, I might just as well close all of you and we revert back to the line telephone. At kukunin ko yan, i-expropriate ko sa gobyerno. Alam mo itong, I'll be straight, smart, pati itong globe, ilang taon na ito? At ang sagot palagi sa akin, the party cannot be rich. Saan pa na pumunta yung yawa na yun? Kung ganun lang naman ibigay ninyo sa amin, we are a republic, a sovereign country. Bear that in mind because the patience of the Filipino people is reaching its limit. At I will be the one to articulate the anger of the Filipino people. And you might not want what I intend to do with you. Kindly improve the services before December. I want to call Jesus Christ to Bethlehem. Better have that line cleared. Alam, sa totoo ng ade na po, na ako sa inyo. I have been a citizen of this country and parang nilalaro lang ninyong, kayong may pera. Puta. May pera kayo? Negosyo kayo. Wala kayong pera, putang, umalis kayo dito. You know, you give us half deals, half cooked transactions, lousy service. Tapos ang tao nagbabayad. Tell us now if you cannot really improve on it. Because I will work by December. I have 2 years. The next 2 years will be spent improving the telecommunications of this country. Without you, I will find a way. I will talk to Congress and find a way how to do it. Last year, I said that distributing economic business activities is imperative to our country's sustained and equitable growth. Today, I reiterate that statement. I issued Administrative Order Number 18, directing concerned agencies to strengthen the development of special economic zones in areas outside Metro Manila. I also issued Executive Order Number the same, 114, to institutionalize the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program. This consolidates and refocuses existing economic and social welfare programs, activities, and projects toward the countryside. It is also an international agency council headed by Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdia, which will create a framework for the effective implementation of the project. Kung hindi ninyo ako naiintindihan sa sinabasa ko, mas lalo ako. In 2021, we aim to increase access to healthcare services by continuously hiring and deploying more than 20,000 health professionals. This will augment health workforce in LGUs, particularly in isolated and disadvantaged areas. We will implement projects to establish and improve barangay health stations, rural health units, and other healthcare facilities. And we will need to address internal security. We are pursuing a whole of the nation approach to bring peace and order, development in the countryside. We need to provide intervention and implement the barangay development program. This will provide clear this will provide cleared and threatened communities. This refers to a program where the armed forces would play a vital role in the one nation approach. This is what it's meant by this. And that every agency of the government, including the armed forces of the Philippines, should participate. And I am aware of the skirmishes and the assassination of our soldiers. And I said, correct this so that we can proceed with the barangay implementation as fast as possible. We have made significant strides in the past 4 years, but we need the support of local government leaders. We need your help to implement the barangay development program. Certain sectors expressed concern when I declared martial law in Mindanao and its extension 3 times. But 2019 ended without my office requesting any further extension. Martial law in Mindanao ended without abuses by the civilian sector, by the police, by the military. It ended because this time I know that they know how to love the country. I thank Congress for the support to these administration programs. Congress has been very productive, but much more remains to be done. You know, actually, my speech, if we followed it carefully, it's all a plea to Congress to do this, to do that, to make a law or craft a whatever. And this one, I strongly urge Congress to pass a law establishing the Department of Overseas Filipinos, solely on addressing the concerns of Filipinos abroad and their families. I reiterate this swift passage before this. Kawawa kasi itong ating mga overseas. If it's only an office there in the Labor Department, they are overworked or for whatever reason, their needs, their pleas are not really attended to with dispatch and with care. Yung OFW, pati itong ano ngayon, ito yung sinabi ko kanina, I will go for it. We will need it to help them. I reiterate the swift passage of a law reviving the death penalty by lethal injection for crimes specified under the Comprehensive Dangerous Act of 2002. I did not hear so much clapping, so I presume that they are not interested. Wala kang... Someday I'll tell you the story of what happened to the Philippines. Hindi ngayon. But when sabihin ko sa inyo ang totoo, bakit nagaganito yung droga ng Pilipinas? Why the drug syndicates continue to operate just like the countries of Colombia, Mexico, and it is being played inside the national penitentiaries. Para tayong talagang binababoy tayo. Sabihin ko sa inyo. But this is not a time for storytelling. SONA kasi ito. So, dito na. This law will not only help us deter criminality, but also save our children from the dangers posed by the illegal and dangerous drugs. May I be allowed with the indulgence of the body? Itong bakit talaga ako galit sa droga. Let us make this a semi-formal speech. Alam mo kasi, 5 pamilya members, o 6 or 7, pagka bumagsak yung tatay to drugs, the family crumbles. There's no more home to. Droga, and if he's receiving his salary, nagtatrabaho sa pantalan, 300 a day. Tapos ang shabu is sold at 2. He has about 100 to bring home. Kaya pagka gano'n, nag-aaway-aaway na. Ang mga bata hindi nakapag-aral. Ang iba, ligaw na. Mga babae into early prostitution. Kung ano-ano nangyari. Hindi lang alam nitong mga na this is happening all over the country every day. And what is really very tragic is this. When the family starts to crumble, there's no more family home. And invariably, the wife would look for another husband, would look for a job, usually, easily, doon sa abroad. At yung asawa, aalis, yung lalaki na sa droga, yung mga anak iniiwan sa kapitbahay, sa kapatid. And the ferocity of the loss of the Filipino family home has been destroyed. Kaya kung anong mangyari nito, the wife works in the Middle East. I am not zeroing on any particular country, mind you. But alam naman natin, there are tribes in the Middle East, which would allow rape as part of the territory of being a house help. Kasama yan. Kasama talaga yan. So yan ang mahirap dyan. You have a wife there being crucified, being used, magpadala ng pera, tapos ang mga anak, nasa Cebu na rin. Kasi these are the guys that the Cebu people would really, stick by them until it crumbles, the resistance. And then you have plenty of this all over the country. Nila alam. Yung sinasabi nila ng misery sa human rights, plus 10 yan. Not to count the victims of crimes perpetrated by people addicted to Cebu. That is the reason why I'm so vicious in my galit talaga ako. Nilalaroan tayo. Well, I don't know. Any other president might. Pero ako ayaw kong lalaroan ng Pilipino. Do not do it in my country because I will really kill you. That is a commitment. Owning safe, decent, and affordable housing is every Filipino's dream. But the housing market remains inaccessible to most of our countrymen. I renew my call for Congress to pass the National Housing Development Bill and the Rental Housing Subsidy Bill. These will enable all Filipinos, regardless of social status, to live in decent homes where their families can lead meaningful lives. I also call on Congress to amend Republic Act number 10912 for the Continuing Professional Development Act of 2016. In this time of great pandemic and forthcoming reconstruction, requiring professionals to undergo seminars is burdensome and not realistic. This must end. Ito pang isa. May mga profession. Singit ko na lang lahat to tell this is to inform the nation. May mga profession na they would require, I think it's the nicest, they would require them to come to Manila to retrain and for another round of expenses. Itong mga seminar na ito, dapat mahinto. I don't know in other provinces, but during my time sa barangay expeditions ng mga opisyal, hininto ko rin yan. And which reminds me, I will act on this also due time. We hail our health professionals as heroes. Now is the time to pass the Advanced Nursing Education Act and the law instituting the Medical Reserve Corps. COVID-19 will not only be the last pandemic. We need to create National Disease Prevention Management Authority to better respond to future outbreaks. We count on Congress to full support. You can just let it remain for a while in the Department of Health kung wala pang pera, but you have to expand the services. It would also entail a little bit of money, but not really as much as expensive when you set up a department. In the long term, we are looking into the creation of the National Disease Prevention and Management Authority to better prepare for the pandemic, protect lives, and allow development to proceed even in the worst of times. We are counting on the full support of Congress for this critical, important endeavor. Uh, I don't know, but I leave it to Congress to really. It's another department. There seems that it could be a multi-layer, redundant thing between the health and the proposed department. I call on Congress to prioritize the passage of a law for the unified system of separation, retirement, and pension, and of the military and uniformed personnel without, however, diminishing the benefits that our uniformed personnel are entitled to under existing laws. There is a need to adjust the pension system, which will be applicable only to the newly hired uniformed personnel, so as not to cause a ballooning effect against the budget of the military in the years to come, and yet maintain the pension benefits those already in service under the present law. This issue needs a solution now. Umpisahan natin ngayon para hindi na maging problema sa sunod na mga taon. I want to, well, one of the, this is not politicking, I am not running, I cannot run anymore. Yung dinoble ko yung sweldo ng police pati army, it was really a clarion call para for them also to have a decent life and that they're able to get the things which ordinarily cannot be reached by any government employee. Ang akin doon is yung corruption. That maybe it might be a vain attempt, but maybe dagdagan ng sweldo para it would be a hedge against corruption. We must also modernize the Bureau of Fire Protection and the Bureau of Immigration with urgency. Alam mo, sa Davao, and if you go there, I can show you. One of the serviceable trucks, fire trucks that we have in the city of Davao. Of course, ang city meron ng sarili, aside from the Bureau of Fire, which is really national. Meron yung Bureau of Fire, would you believe it, serviceable still. Ang pangalan ng truck is Studebaker. Ang katawan, ang talagang matatag ang katawan. Kaya ang makina isusok. Pero okay pa rin. It can put out. Totoo. This is how this Bureau of Fire issue medyo na overlook natin ng matagal. I emphasize the creation of the Department of Disaster Resilience and our people's safety, which cannot be delegated to any council or commission. Equally important is the establishment of evacuation center in every city, province, municipality throughout the country. We must act before another major disaster shakes into action. Problem is disaster and even a fire cannot be this cannot be made a study for projection when the earthquake would suddenly come and make a big crack there. Hindi natin alam talaga. Ang ibig kong sabihin, this will require more than just one brain work kung paano talaga itong how to prevent or avoid disaster. It would be, by the way, just before starting, I was tempted to say it. Pero baka magtindigan kayo. It will be all right for me if Bongo will just stay. Wala akong problema. Sabi ko na this piece of speech of mine would be one of the longest sonas that I will deliver. Nakita ko yung page pagbigay sa akin. Yung ibang input akin. Pati yung iba lahat. Ang nangyari po, binalik ko sa kanila. Make it short. Pagbalik sa akin, mas makapal na. Nandyan na ngayon. Ito na ngayon. The responsible extraction and equitable distribution of natural resources remain among my non-negotiables. I reiterate the need for the passage of the National Land Use Act, which has been pending for decades. Pakisilip lang ho ninyo yan. For the rest of my term, I hope to see concerted efforts in protecting the environment. The rehabilitation of Boracay Island showcased our resolve to safeguard the environment. Boracay is doing well because of its scenery. If it's only a coconut and a black sand, white sand and water, wala yan. Pero you add the visitors there, then it becomes a very tempting destination. We have seen remarkable emergence of the island back to its former glory. I want this sustained. I ask Congress to enact a law creating, importante ito, the Boracay Island Authority or BIDA. We need it. I cannot stress enough the importance of agriculture. The growth of our economy depends on a robust agricultural sector. We must utilize the coconut levy for the welfare of our coconut farmers and the development of our coconut industry. I urge everybody, both of the executive department pati ito, that ito yung pera na nakuha doon sa sequester. And itong perang malaking ito, gagamitin ito for the welfare of the farmers. The problem is, we can no longer trace who are the farmers of yesterday. Marcos is a distant star. We do not know. Ako alam ko because we had a little piece also that was covered by the land reform. Hindi na natin malaman kung sino ang may-ari. So I think Congress should look again and try to sort out how best the money can be utilized. I will not make any suggestion, but I leave it to Congress to decide what to do with it. I once again urge both houses of Congress to pass a version of the bill establishing the Coconut Farmers Trust Fund. Tulungan natin ang ating mga magsasaka pagka hindi mawawala yung pera, bilyon yan. Diyos ko po. Well, anyway, we have learned so many lessons along the way. I am also requesting Congress to pass the Rural, Agricultural, and Fisheries Development Financing System Act. We aim to provide adequate, accessible, and affordable food for every Filipino through the Plant program. After the build, I think this is easier to achieve. A few good men, few good regional directors, DAR, and dedicated workers down below could make this thing a success. Mas madali ito kaysa build. Ito plant lang. It is more of how you try to convince the farmers to cooperate government for their benefit. This 66 billion agricultural stimulus package will help the agricultural and fisheries sector recover. I hope so. We need to build trust and confidence in online transactions, stronger protection on online consumers, and enabling measures for online business needed through the enactment of an Internet Transaction Act. This is very good. I thus direct the Department of Trade and Industry and other relevant agencies to work on it closely with Congress, ensuring that the provisions of the proposed bill are responsive to the needs of the consumers while promoting the growth of e-commerce in the country. If you are tired of clapping, you just say so I can make a shortcut. Pabilisan lang yan. On the path of better governance, we travel with other partners, both old and new, have helped bolstering the antiquated public health system for bringing home or laid off Filipinos overseas, for filling in supply gaps for crucial medical supplies and equipment and staple food. For these and many more, the Philippines thanks all friendly nations. We will never forget your kindness and your timely support. Within ASEAN and beyond the Philippines, we will continue to work with partners to address global perils and ramp up cooperation to secure for our peoples greater peace, progress, and prosperity. The Filipino nation claims its rightful place in a community of sovereign states. Thus, we will continue to pursue an independent foreign policy. Let me be very clear about this. May I cut my prepared speech? Alam mo, I read a little over 3 weeks or last month na the Americans would intends to go back to Subic. I'll just put on record my thoughts. I have nothing against America. I have nothing against China. But if you put bases here, you double the spectacle of a, a most destructive thing. Just like Manila during the Second World War, during the retaking of this city, it was one of the most devastated cities in the world. Kaya maglagay-lagay ka ng base at this time. This will ensure if war breaks out, because there would be atomic arsenals brought in. This will ensure the extinction of the Filipino race. We work without fail to protect our rights in the South China Sea, neither beholden nor a pawn to anyone. We broaden the boundaries of Philippine diplomacy. We build productive ties with everyone willing to engage us on the basis of equality and mutual respect. And we redefined our relationships with our most important partners, placing the country in a far better position to advance our interests in an evolving regional order and emerging global problems. Now, plenty of critics, both sides, claim about nothing has been done to retake forcefully or physically the South China Sea. Alam mo, unless we are prepared to go to war, I would suggest that we better just call off and treat this, I said, with the diplomatic endeavors. China is claiming it. We are claiming it. China has the arms. We do not have it. So, it's simple as that. They are in possession of the property. You remember property, you're a lawyer, property rights. They are, it has nothing to do with the Philippine laws on property. But it's akin to, they are in possession. So what can we do? We have to go to war. And I cannot afford it. Maybe some other president can, but I cannot. Inutil ako dyan, sabihin ko sa inyo. And I'm willing to admit it. Talagang inutil ako dyan. Walang magawa. I cannot. The moment I send my Marines there at the coastal shores of Palawan, tinamaan ng cruise missile lahat yan. Hindi pa nga set sail yan eh. Sabog na. Let me see again that the victory in a global battle against COVID-19 would take longer than we expect. Everyone's cooperation is needed. I know that you have, the Filipino people, have sacrificed a lot, but we have no other choice but to work together and to do even more. I must admit that our actions have been far from perfect. Totoo yan. I admit it. And there could be improvements here and there. But all of us in government, including myself, assure you that we will not stop until we get things right and better for you. I know that many of you are worried not only about health and safety, but also about our ability to move around and ride public transportation. The depletion of your savings due to the rising cost of goods and the loss of your incomes due to uncertainties in your jobs and livelihood, I assure you that your government will address squarely these problems and challenges to overcome them and proceed to a new normal. Marami ho talagang mawawalaan ng those for a middle income. They buy a car on installment basis. You cannot keep up with the amortization. You lose it. You lose the car. And you are forced to ride on public utilities. Concomitantly, didiretso rin itong mga kriminal na rarami at crimes will increase. But let me assure you, for as long as I am president, there can never be a runaway crime in any of our cities. Hindi ako papayag na ganun. I can assure you, we will remain peaceful. Relatively peaceful. Hindi naman very peaceful. Pero kung sabihin mo na kagaya ng hold up dito, hold up, alam naman nila kung anong mangyari. You know what will happen to you. I am addressing myself to the criminals. You commit hold-ups, you commit rape, you commit all sorts of things, and you harm the public, then kaaway mo na ako. Pag bumalik kayo sa dati, kagaya noon, patong-patong na naman ang patay dito. Sigurado, hahanapin ko kayo. Do not ever go back to your old ways. Maghanap na lang kayo ng anong trabaho dyan. Magtiis kayo. To open up the economy to pre-COVID-19 levels at this time is not an option because whatever good it can produce will only be gobbled up or be the recent upsurge of infection when you open little windows of resumption of business is proof of that. I am happy that I have talked to you today. You know, in other places, they opened up too early, too soon. America is one. China, well, fortunately, it was arrested on time. China and the rest, for those who open up, and those who do not follow the protocols of at least the World Health Organization, they are suffering. And they have at least 140 deaths. And America, kukulang sila lahat. No nation on earth was really prepared for COVID. No amount of preparation because that kind of microbes visits about once every 100 years. Wala man yung mga tatay natin. What they suffered was Second World War. But tayo, we are not ready and therefore will not gamble with the lives and health of the people. Certainly no one would want to end up in the negative side of the equation. Not me, not us. All I ask is that you continue to put your faith in your government and work with us in achieving what is best for the country and our people. Together, let us do Mahirap basahin kasi dito. The most that we can to ensure that is health, safety, and well-being of every Filipino, especially those severely affected, are taken care of. Together, we shall fight this pandemic with the same fervor as our campaign against illegal drugs, criminality, insurgency, and corruption in high places, and entrenched parochial interests. As a government worker, I am addressing each and every Filipino that the government cannot do this without your help. More than ever, we need to reinvigorate the deep-seated Filipino spirit of pakisama and malasakit within each and every one of us. We are being tested as a people and as a nation. Worse times loom ahead. But I do hope that this spirit of solidarity and unity will serve as a drumbeat to which we shall march in unison in our quest for the light at the end of the tunnel. I appeal to each and every Filipino, let us take care of one another. Ito ang panahon para magtulungan, hindi panahon para maglamanan, lamang, mamang, dila ko. Hindi maglamang at pagkakaisa. My faith in the Filipino innate patience, resilience, and determination to bounce back is unwavering. Let us share our blessings with those who have little and those who have none. This is the time to bring out the best in us. The woes that weigh heavily on our shoulders may bend our back, but they shall not bend or break our spirit. From the rubbles of adversity, a more resilient and stronger nation, built on bayanihan and pagkakaisa, shall rise. Together, we shall overcome. Before I pardon the time, but it was really the allotted time for my speech, I would just like to give a statement between us sa gobyerno kung hindi tayo nakakaintindihan. You know, Drilon extended, he was defending. I would like to ask Drilon, were you a part of ACRA when this contract of Ayala Water was being drafted? And why are you fumigating? Bakit kasi ikaw lang ang galit? Nasabi mo na dynasty. You are a hypocrite. You know that you cannot pass an anti-dynasty law. Ikaw nandyan sa Congress, ikaw ang mauna dito. But you know, to take it against me for protecting my country is something which I really resent. Alam mo, you describe using the dictionary the synonym ng mga oligarchy. Then you proceeded to characterize everyone, every name, and then said that oligarchy is not bad at all because not all oligarchies are bad. True. But ito, to my countrymen, the oligarchy that exists in this country is the oligarchy that existed during the Spanish time. And the Spanish lands and the friar lands and all the benefits that were passed on to the insulares who did not go back to Spain, or to the Spaniards and into their. But that was long ago. It has been forgotten. This is the oligarchy that controls the Philippines by what? By taking control of the water and the electricity and power. Yan ang oligarchy mo, Drilon. Wala nang oligarchy dito except that they have control. Look at how can you now craft a new contract? Because I would insist that you pay the billions and billions that you collected. For example, water treatment. Oh, nandyan sa kontrata. It's in the billing. They've been collected. Since 1997. Ilang bilyon na nga wala ni isa. Not even a faucet was built for a water treatment facility. Yan ang mahirap sa, you do not protect the oligarchs here. You are the one, ikaw lang mag-isa. And I suspect that you were also the one or help when you were there in the Accra. We do not even know ang mga abogado sa public documents. Hindi nga alam. Hindi natin alam kung nakagraduate ba o hindi. Wala. Would you think Ayala would get the services of those? Ayala got Accra. Accra did it. Ikaw galing ka doon. Most of you, more successful lawyers sa corporation. You handle big corporate. Yan ang mahirap. O, bangga tayo dito. Hinawakan ninyo eh. Hindi ka pwede kayo. Kita mo, noong nag-increase, walang tubig, pinuputol yung tubig. Ang tao, bumigay kasi hindi pwede yung tayo hindi maligo. Hindi uminom. Electricity, ayaw mo mag-increase. O ayan, wala ka. Palaging brown out lahat. I'm sorry, but I have to say this to you. I do not like it. It's not the time for it. But since it is the time for the SONA, for people to know and people to really get the facts, then and the right of the people to be heard. Tayo na naman ang tao magsama. Hinawakan ninyo yung tubig, pati electricity. Yun ang oligarchy. Kaya ako sinabi ko noong kumpanya. Corruption is not here. Yung mga customs, maliit yan. It's there upstairs. And I was really unprovidential. Dumating yung panahon na hindi ko hiningi. Then I saw the contract. Noong nakita ko yung contract, saka yung linya na yung choice, yung linya ng it belongs to government. The best of the transmission lines, whatever, government gets it first before anybody else. Thank you. I am through.
On the part of the Senate, the joint session is adjourned.
On the part of the House of Representatives, the joint session is adjourned.
ka umatras sa sakit na marahas. Kailangan mong magpalakas para sila'y mailigtas. Buwis ang iyong buhay, handang matanggap pag ika'y mamatay. Asawa't anak na hindi masilayan, pamilya mong iiwang luhaan. Masdan niyo ang mundo, isip ay mulat, magigising ang lahat. Paglaban niyo ang mundo.
Yan. Gano'ng katagal yun?
Sorry, naka-unmute pala ako. That was that was 1 hour and 48 minutes. Almost 2 hours ang SONA ng Pangulo, no? Sige. Ano muna ang mga reaksyon nyo? First of all, ang first question ko sa inyo is, kontento ba kayo sa mga naging pahayag ni Pangulong Duterte?
Partner, teka pala, yung mga kasama natin, yung mga na nag-tune in at nanood ng SONA sa ating Facebook page. Sumagot din po kayo, ha? At mamaya para maganda yung ating balikan natin diskusyon. At babasahin namin yung mga sagot din po ninyo. O, sige. Attorney, ikaw ba? Anong masasabi mo?
Bago tayo siguro, we go into the details yung mga nasabi niya, in general. Sa tingin niyo ba kayo ay kontento sa mga naging pahayag ni Pangulong Duterte? Or eto ba ay may kulang pa rin sa tingin niyo sa mga nasabi niya? Bago yung point of view ko.
Kayo, wala ba kayong... Sa akin, I think...
sige, ikaw na, attorney. Siguro pwede din tayo mag-share partner mamaya. Kung gusto mo, kung meron ka di babahagi. Attorney.
Siguro marami siyang mga bagay na mga naulit no? Kung napansinin ninyo. So, kumbaga, parang from 2019, concern na niya yon para sa state of the nation. Hanggang 2020, baon-baon pa rin. So, ibig sabihin ba in that 1 year, hindi gumalaw yung mga bagay na yon na gusto sana niyang bigyan ng priority ng mga lawmakers natin, di ba?
Yes. Kasama yan siguro yung yung ibinalita noon last year na Department of Overseas Filipinos. Kasama yan sa mga nabanggit. Pati yung sa Coco Levy, yung coconut, Coconut Farmers Fund. I think parang nabanggitin yun last year, no?
Trust fund. I think even fire safety. Bandang dulo na yun nung kanyang speech. Pero yung mga unang part, syempre, tungkol sa response ng government sa COVID, kung ano pa yung pwedeng gawin ng gobyerno.
Right. Ako naman ang napansin ko lang, I was hoping na sana mas magkaroon ng focus din yung actions ng government. I mean, siguro marami na rin nagawa naman ang government in terms of COVID-19 sa Pilipinas, pero baka lang hindi sufficient. So I was hoping na mas maraming concrete actions na ipapahayag ang Pangulo pagdating sa COVID-19 management. Yun lang siguro yung I was hoping na sana mas maging concrete yung mga actions niya.
Ako naman, ako dun sa in-opening remarks niya si Drilon at siya din ang closing remarks niya. So, medyo intrigang-intriga ako dyan, pero bukod doon, special mention siya, sa simula pa lang, di ba? May halong gigil si Presidente din dito kay kay
Senator Drilon.
Dazzelyn. Oo.
I was
Anyway,
thinking,
sige partner.
bago yung point of view mo, I was hoping na, or I was thinking na okay na sila ng mga Ayalas din. Mukhang hindi pa tapos yung kanyang litanya pagdating sa mga reklamo niya sa mga oligarchs. So, yun. I think isa sa mga pwede natin pag-usapan din yan tungkol dyan mamaya after ng point of view mo, partner. Go ahead.
Kasi ano ba yung oligarkiya? Sino ba yung mga tinutukoy nito? Ano yung epekto ba nito? Pwede din natin pag-usapan. Pero yung isang ine-expect ko, medyo related din sa COVID-19 na sinabi mo, partner, ay yung sa educational system. So, na-address niya naman, but I am really like very interested to see kung paano nila to i-implement. Kasi di ba sinabi niya yung blended learning, sinabi niya yun na ayaw niyang magkaroon ng face-to-face na mga klase hanggat wala pang bakuna. And this is a bit contrary to yung kung ano yung mga naipabalita previously, no, bago leading to eto kasi magsisimula na yung klase. So medyo reassuring naman ito. I just I guess bilang educator myself, very particular at gusto kong sundan kung paano exactly nila may implement ito. Kasi alam naman natin, di ba, mahirap yan kasi hindi lang ito usapin ng access, lalo na sa mga malalayong lugar, sa mga bulubundukin, sa mga probinsya, yung mga eskwelahan pa nga na, alam mo yung, hindi ko alam kung narinig nyo na meron mga tinatawag na multi-grade. So yung isang teacher, nag-handle siya ng grade 4, grade 5, o kaya grade 1, grade 2, minsan 4 na grade levels yung hinahawakan niya kasi masyadong malayo yung etong mga paaralan na ito. So very interested ako kung paano nila to i-roll out. Tapos meron pa siyang binanggit about using TV stations to ito tingin ko magandang kasi ito mismo din yung particular na research na ginagawa ko sa paggamit ng mga ICT. So gusto kong curious ako kung paano nila i-implement yung paggamit ng mga ng TV channels para gamitin ito for e-learning. Merong potential to nakikita ko yung value niya. Hindi ko lang alam kung paano bilang hindi lahat ng tahanan merong TV, hindi lahat ng lugar may kuryente. So yun. Pero yun yung inaabangan ko yung portion na sasabihin niya tungkol sa edukasyon at buti naman at meron siyang binanggit tungkol dito.
Isa sa mga insiders ko ang nagsabi nga na sa etong may mga programa talaga ngayon ang ginagawa ng government. In fact, nakita ko sa isang post ng isang kaibigan ko who is siya yung leader or siya yung general manager ng isang TV station ngayon ay may mga ini-invite na sila ng mga engineers para tingnan kung ano yung capabilities ngayon ng government stations pagdating sa paggamit nito in terms of yung sa education ata. So pagkakaalam ko nga ang isa sa mga nabanggit ng aking mga bubuwit ay merong dalawang aspeto ang tinitingnan. Yung una, yung mismong program or yung content mismo on how to do this education through television. Tapos yung pangalawa is kung yung technical part. So paano nila gagawin. So parang dalawang groups ang ginagawa nila simultaneously on how to do this education on air or e-learning nga na sinasabi ni Pangulong Duterte.
Actually, para lang makaalaman na ba natin mga kababayan, hindi naman ito bago. Naalala mo nung bata tayo, yan ay may mga programa na talaga na for education programs.
Chemistry in action, physics in everyday life.
For language, math technique, for math. So, ito ay
in fact, yung part na bago yung mo, i-share ko lang. In fact, yung teacher dun sa physics in everyday life, siya yung naging teacher ko sa pinakauna kong physics major physics subject nung physics major ako. Kung gaano siya kabagal magsalita sa TV, ganun siya kabilis naman magsalita sa klase. Yung sobrang, pero alam mo, first day of class niya nun, sabi ko talaga, Ma'am, I always watch your TV show. Sabi ko ganyan. So, in-approach siya after ng class. Kasi sinabi ko niya, I always watch your TV show. Kasi talagang natututo naman ako, in fairness naman, natututo ako sa science noon, physics and chemistry because of of that show. Pero yung structure mismo kung paano nila gagawin, I am unsure about it, kung paano talaga magiging mas effective para sa lahat. Especially yun nga sinasabi mo, partner, na yung mga walang access to TV, yung mga ganun. Kasi sa Pilipinas, kahit sabihin mo na pinakamalawak pa rin yung access ng television as compared sa internet, parang feeling ko kasi hindi lahat pa rin merong access sa television sa Pilipinas. No? So ang hirap talaga nung ganung sitwasyon.
Meron at merong advantage. And it seems like sa SONA ni President Duterte, sinasabi, ine-emphasize niya yung access for everyone, 'di ba? Kung napansin niyo dun sa bawat ano niya, punctuation niya ng speech niya, binabanggit niya yan eh. So well, sana ma-implement ito ng maayos, no? Pero sa totoo lang, yung government channels hindi naman yung ano, unless siguro kung AM radios, merong malaking posibilidad na kayang ma-access ng mga nasa malalayo talaga, kasi yung AM, yung band niya mas mas accessible, mas mura rin. Pero yun na nga, hindi pa rin lahat. Hindi lahat meron ito, at syempre iba din yun kasi ang kabataan ngayon, ano na sila very visual learners itong mga to. Hindi tayo nga siguro, ewan ko sa inyo, pero ako medyo hirap ako, hindi ako masyadong yung auditory, may mga ganun na very sila na matuto. Yung mga siguro yung previous generation talagang magaling sila sa ganyan, makikinig lang sila sa radyo, nakukuha nila lahat ng impormasyon. Yung mga kabataan ngayon, hindi yun yung profile nila. So I think it's gonna be a limitation and a struggle to really, alam mo yun, bring quality education pa rin amidst this crisis, itong pa rin natin, pandemic natin.
Medyo hindi ko naiintindihan, partner, kung paano nila gagamitin ang AM stations for education, kasi visual usually ang education, di ba? So I am not convinced, I'm not familiar of how it will be done.
Meron. Marami na mga programa, like sa UP Los Baños, meron sila dating nakalimutan ko yung mismong programa, pero meron yung mga learning on the air programs para sa mga farmers, para sa mga basically yung mga hindi kayang umattend ng formal schooling. Pero not everybody can do it. Ibig sabihin talagang meron kang kailangan mong aralin yung pedagogy, kung paano mo ituturo effectively yung ganong klaseng mga content. So yung hindi lahat ng teacher, hindi pwedeng i-expect na lahat ng teacher kaya nila yung gawin. Hindi. It's a very different type of training na kailangan equip yung mga teachers bago nila ito maisagawa. So parang ang gandang pakinggan ng plano, pero yun na nga, very interested akong sundan.
Siguro isa-isahin natin yung mga issues na ni-raise niya. Unang-una pa lang, sabi niya, oligarchs like the Lopezes, I am a casualty of the Lopezes in 2016. So talagang diretsahang sinabi niya na isa ang mga Lopezes sa mga oligarchs, which is, ito yung sinasabi noon ni spokesperson Harry Roque na, hindi yung mga Lopezes ang binabanggit ni Pangulong Duterte dun sa kanyang speech na mga oligarchs. So I think diretsahan sinabi niya na ang mga Lopezes ay oligarchs, at parte sila at naging parte siya ng casualty noong 2016. No? Meron ba kayong comment dyan?
Gusto kong tanungin actually si attorney kasi medyo andun tayo sa teritoryo niya. Ako wala akong, hindi ako hindi malalim yung kaalaman ko dyan sa issue na yan. Attorney Rania, pwede, kung naman, yung from your side, yung mga, not just dito sa tungkol sa oligarchy, pero yung thoughts mo tungkol dito sa kakatapos lang na SONA.
Well, ayun nga, I think nakita natin nung simula na talagang he took issue with what Senator Drilon did, and nakita mo din sa binalikan niya yung issue ng oligarchies. Nakita mo rin na meron pang ibang mga watch out sa iba pang mga companies na I guess may monopoly sa mga operations sa Pilipinas, di ba? So, kung nakita natin kung ano yung nangyari sa ABS-CBN, hindi nga yun na-discuss, Hindi niya na binalikan masyado. But balikan ko din sinabi mo Jun, di ba? Sabi din naman niya noon, okay na siya with the Lopezes. Pero see what
Actually,
happened.
okay na siya sa mga Ayalas. Ayalas.
Ay, sorry, sa Ayalas. But at the same time, di ba with the Lopezes, sabi niya, may
Sabi niya kasi na pinatawad na
doon, wala
niya
siyang
or he's accepting the apology of the Lopezes. Parang ganun, parang in-accept na yun. Pero bringing up pa rin niya dito sa discussion na he was part of the casualty of the Lopezes and the Lopezes are part of the oligarchs. He actually started and ended his SONA with the oligarchs. Kasi kung napapansin niyo, yung ending ng kanyang SONA was tungkol pa rin sa mga oligarchs. He was pertaining that the oligarchs of today ay parang parehas ng mga oligarchs noong panahon ng mga Espanyol.
Oo. So, nakikita natin talaga yung parang hindi man niya tinagalan talaga yung discussion niya doon. Pero the fact na sinimulan niya tapos binalikan pa niya, talagang matimbang sa kanya yung issue ng oligarchies ngayon.
Attorney Rania, para lang sa kapakanan ng mga followers natin sa Rita J, ano ba yung tinutukoy niya na oligarchs? Pag sinabing oligarchy, ano ba yun? At bakit ba ito issue? Bakit siya problema? At bakit pinanggigigilan ito ni President Duterte?
Kasi when you say oligarch, para yan yung kokonti lang sila na nasa mga position of power and wealth. So, I think ang issue talaga dyan is yung hindi equal yung distribution ng wealth natin di ba? Dahil because yung power naiipon sa iilang tao lamang. So, ang tinutukoy, I guess, ng Pangulo sa oligarchs is yun nga, yung mga kumpanya, mga korporasyon na yun yung nangyayari sa Pilipinas na sila lang yung sila yung makapangyarihan, sila yung nakakapag-decide gumawa ng nakaka-control ng kung paano, let's say for instance sa ABS-CBN, kung paano nila makontrol yung information, yung media, kung ano yung lumalabas sa balita. So, yung point ng Pangulo in saying na gusto niyang tanggalin lahat ng mga oligarkiya na yan para maging equal din, di ba? Remove power from these people who have held it since the time of the Spaniards, as he said, and make things more equal for all, parang ganun.
All right. Okay, dito binanggit din niya yung mga nagawa last etong last 12 months Isa sa mga ito is yung amelioration support ng government. Inamin niya na may mga drivers, may mga lower people na hindi nakatanggap nga ng amelioration at pinatitignan niya ito. Sabi niya sa kanyang speech. Nabanggit din niya yung pagpo-postpone ng Sangguniang Kabataan at yung barangay elections to use the funds for the needed support. So, which is tama naman. I think that would be more realistic at this point in time and mas tama naman na ganun nga yung naging desisyon ng Pangulo, in my opinion.
Paano ba
I think it's
Sorry, sige, go ahead.
Sabihin ko sana, isa din sa mga pinagtuunan niya ng pansin yung mga OFW. Marami sa mga sinabi niya mga ginagawa ng gobyerno or gusto niya sanang gawin pa ng gobyerno is yung para sa mga OFW na yung pag-retool sa kanila para kung nakabalik man sa Pilipinas ay makakabangon ba for entrepreneurship or agribusiness. Ano pa ba yung sinabi niya yung CHED to provide scholarships for children of OFWs, financial institutions
lower interest
to
loans
extend
to
loans.
OFWs.
So makikita natin na isa
Right.
din yun sa mga priorities niya na the OFWs are
Which is a good thing.
taken
At least
care of
merong
also.
focus na ibinibigay din siya sa mga overseas Filipinos. Sabi nga niya, maraming like yung agribusiness para tulungan sa mga sa mga displaced OFWs to rebuild their livelihood. So parang nakikita natin na meron ding meron talagang sinasadya talaga na i-divert din into agricultural focus ang government para matulungan hindi lamang yung mga kababayan natin sa Pilipinas kundi pati na rin yung mga overseas Filipinos na maaaring nawalan ng trabaho because of this pandemic. We just need to highlight also na parang sinabi niya na 83,000 repatriated OFWs with temporary wage. Ano ba yung sinabi niya tungkol dito? Is he going to parang tutulungan? Parang ganon? Tapos nabanggit din niya na magkakaroon sana ng Department of Overseas Filipinos, which is ito din yung isa sa mga nabanggit last year, yung Department of Overseas Filipinos, pero until now it's not probably part of the priority bills ng Kongreso, no?
Alam mo yung binanggit niya, sususog lang ako dyan sa yung OFW nga, yung tupad project sa under DOLE apparently, tulong panghanap buhay para sa disadvantaged at displaced workers. So highlight niya na yung 83,000 nga na na-repatriate ng mga Pilipino. At alam natin dito lang sa Singapore, 'di ba? Yung bilang ng mga apektado din ng mga Pinoy na layoff, na pauwi. Ganyan. So very din ako dito sa kung ano yung estado nito. Siguro partner pwede tayong mag-devote ng mas malalimang usapan pa tungkol dito sa no, para alam din ng mga kababayan natin kung ano ba tong tinutukoy na to na programa.
Existing na ba tong project na to?
Nung tinignan ko siya kanina on ano siya parang for implementation.
For implementation pa lang. Alright. Okay, nabanggit din niya, pwede na ako mag-next topic, ano? Nabanggit din niya yung pag-establish nga ng National Academy of Sports. Wala pa rin to, no? Itong National Academy of Sports. I don't know kung ang purpose nito is to what? To give support sa mga yung mga younger generation of sportsmen ba natin sa Pilipinas? Yun. Isa din sa mga nabanggit niya was tungkol dito sa elimination of overregulation of government services to ease the processes. Like katulad yung mga passport validity. Actually, itong program niya na to, matagal na niyang sinasabi at the start of his term pa nga, di ba? Itong pagpapabilis ng mga proseso sa Pilipinas. Yun, matagal na akong hindi nagpo-proseso sa Pilipinas, so hindi ko alam kung gaano na ba to talaga kabilis, pero ang parang sinasabi nga niya is even last year, actually binanggit na niya to last year na sinabi niya na kayong mga ahensya ng gobyerno na mababagal, pabilisin niyo to, kung hindi mapapatay ko kayo kasi ang tagal-tagal ko nang sinasabi sa inyo yan. Parang gano'n yung sinasabi niya. So until now, parang ang isang example nga niya na sinasabi last year dun sa kanyang speech was, kung ikaw ay pupunta sa isang ahensya at ikaw ay, let's say ikaw ay, they would ask you to, suhulan, if they would ask you to na manuhol sa kanila, sampalin sila, gumawa ka ng eksena, parang ganun, para, at sabihin mo sa kanila na sinabi ni Duterte na hindi maaari yung ganito. So, yung mga cases of process, of red tape, of eto mga pagpapabilis sa mga proseso, parang eto pa rin yung mga nabanggit last year na mukhang kailangan pa rin ng konting push pa sa government or at least sa mga ahensya ng gobyerno.
I think ngayon, sinabi naman niya na may mga bumilis na, may mga nakuha na agad. Pero ang nadagdag ngayon is to make these services, certain services, dapat kaya na gawin online, bawasan ang sila. So, kumbaga ba, improve pa and add.
Further improved, yun. Ipinagmalaki din ni President Duterte na nag-improve ang credit rating natin mula sa BBB Plus papunta sa A-. Kayo ba may alam kayo tungkol sa credit rating? Actually, binanggit kaninang bago itong SONA na to, nabanggit ni Acting NEDA Secretary Chua, yung tungkol dito nga sa credit rating natin, ano, na ang sinasabi niya nga ay mas nagiging mas may trust yung mga ibang bansa para pautangin tayo sa Pilipinas. Parang ganun ata yung sinasabi nga niya.
Parang ganun nga yung ibig sabihin. Syempre, pag mas mataas yung credit rating mo, ibig sabihin, mas trustworthy kang debtor. Yung kaya mong bayaran yung mga utang mo. So, pwede ka pang pautangin or mas maraming pwedeng ipa-loan sa'yo. Kumbaga.
Parang natatakot ako dyan. Parang hindi ako natuwa dyan. Parang natakot ako dyan. Kasi okay, dadagdagan pa ba natin yung utang natin? Parang last week ba yun, yung pag lumabas na yung bakuna sa COVID-19, di ba? Maglalabas ng ilan yun? Trillion yung, sorry, baka mali yung numbers ko. Pero yun din yun, at binanggit niya rin kanina, di ba, na makikiusap kay China President tungkol sa bakuna. So medyo napaano ako doon.
Sabi nga din sa isang discussion tungkol dun sa mga utang daw ng Pilipinas ay medyo matagal-tagal pa bago matapos na bayaran yung inutang natin just for this COVID. So few trillions na yung nautang, kung kaya't even after this term, even for after a few more years, tsaka pala matatapos na bayaran daw yung nautang natin for COVID-19 pandemic. Well, sinabi naman niya na this has been a global scale and yung social economic impact is really unprecedented. So, hindi lamang sa Pilipinas nangyari to, kundi sa buong mundo. And life could have been easier if it is not because of this pandemic, sabi nga ng Pangulo.
Totoo din ako. Pero, ewan ko, siguro naman bigay ng payo nila ang ating yung mga eksperto when it comes to this. Pero kasi, ewan ko, naalala ko simula ng pagkabata, yan na yung topic na nakabaon ng ang ilang henerasyon yung nakabaon sa utang even before. So, yung paglaki pa lalo ng utang natin, nakakabahala talaga, di ba?
Right. Well, sinabi din, nabanggit din ng Pangulo, yung freedom from illegal drugs, criminality is a violation of human rights, sabi niya. So, dahil nga dito sa mga illegal drugs na to, pati yung mga kriminalidad, dahil sa existence nito, it is part of a violation of human rights. Yun yung lagi niyang binabanggit. Kasi nga, di ba, gigil na gigil talaga siya sa illegal drugs, sa kriminal, yung mga ganun. Nabanggit nga niya ata doon na parang kapag ikaw ay isang kriminal, ituring mo akong parang kaaway mo. Parang ganun. Sa mga nabanggit nga niya.
Saka inulit pa rin yung panawagan niya na ibalik ang death penalty para sa drugs and plunder, di ba?
Right. Through lethal injection. Talagang, parang ngayon lang ba niya binanggit yung tungkol sa lethal injection na yan? Diba? So, etong statement niya na to, it was also the same statement that was given last year in terms of death penalty. I mean, again, maraming bumalik na mga statements niya from last year's SONA, pero sa tingin niyo ba ito ay dahil sa nangyaring pandemya kaya medyo talagang nag-iba yung mga priorities ng Kongreso?
May mga nakasalang at the moment, pero syempre hindi pa pumapasa. I think binabalik niya para pabilisin. Kasi yung dating sa akin nung kanina nung SONA ni President Duterte, talagang parang nag-distribute ng assignment. O ikaw na ganito yung dapat mong gawin. Ito pa yung batas na kailangan mong gawin. Ganon. More on, eto na yung nangyari. I mean, parehas. Meron din siyang eto na yung nangyari, pero karamihan din nung mga sinabi niya ito kailangan gawin tong batas nito. O kayong sa Kongreso, bilisan niyo yung ganito na batas. So, ganun yung naging dating.
Ako nga, ko mas marami ito yung kailangan. Ito pa yung mga kailangan gawin. Kaya, pero yun na nga, balik ako sa sinabi ko na kanina, mukhang marami pa dun sa mga nasabi niya last year. Mukhang hanggang ngayon, kailangan pa rin gawin.
Last year, sinabi niya talaga na he will promise to have a good life for the Filipinos. So, I think it's the same statement that he's telling us that he promises us to have a good life at least during his period. Parang ganun.
Mm. Eh, yung tatawag siya sa Bethlehem, kaya dapat sa December.
Ayusin na lang mga.
Isa pa yung ano 'no, parang kung yung binabanggit yung oligarchy, parang yun lang yung parang, ano bang tawag diyan, yung unspoken ba, pero mararamdaman mo, ay mukhang pinupuntirya din sila 'no, parang
Mukhang
sinabi
susunod na kayo, parang gano'n.
Baptize kayo ng susunod. Kasi tatawag si President Duterte sa Bethlehem ngayong December, kakausapin niya daw si Jesus. So dapat maayos na yung ano mga connection. Kasi ilang taon na parang hindi umaayos daw yung mga yung I guess yung infrastructure para sa ICT pa rin. Kadugtong to nung pag ano siya yung speech niya ay nung sinasabi niya about ano pa rin e-learning, yung blended courses ganyan.
Okay. Sa tingin niyo ba ay mapupush na talaga tong bagong telco for this year? Kasi sinabi niya na by December kailangan it has to be good na talaga. At saka hindi lang para sa third telco, talagang sinabi niya para sa dalawang existing na telco ngayon. Diba? So sa tingin niyo ba it will mag-move na ba tong actions na to?
Well, titignan natin kung ano pang mangyayari sa remaining part ng 2020.
Kasi ilang buwan na lang yung natitira, no? Pero well, to be very fair naman talaga, isa sa mga problema natin sa Pilipinas talaga ang telecommunications. Lalo na ngayon na nasa pandemya tayo. Diba? Nasa pandemya tayo. So, marami talagang online transactions na kailangan gawin. And importante na magkaroon talaga tayo ng magandang internet access sa Pilipinas. Diba? Nabanggit nga niya yung tungkol dun sa ano ba yung binanggit niya tungkol dun sa mga online transactions na yan?
Yung e-commerce.
Oo, yung pagpapabilis ng online transactions, diba? Na dapat nga by now dapat lahat ng kailangan nating gawin magawa na natin online. Kasama na diyan yung pag sa mga government agencies, diba yung processes dapat yung gusto niyang i-eradicate yung pagpila, which is really good tingin ko kung may implement.
Sige. Pasok lang natin yung isa pa nating kasama ngayon partner, pwedeng ikaw mag-introduce.
Teka, nasan ba ano niya? Hindi kami
Alright.
Alam mo si Orion.
Can you hear me? Okay, hi guys. So,
Yes,
hi. Pasensya na kasi dami-daming mga meeting eh. So,
wow.
actually napanood ko yung in between meetings na napanood ko yung last part at saka nagpa-update ako sa mga kasama ko sa Correct Movement kung ano yung mga napag-usapan, no? So, I actually have another meeting at 6:30.
Sorry, you have a meeting at 6:30?
Yeah, so I'll probably talk a little bit of what I think, no? So, to be absolutely honest, I feel really bad na hindi napag-usapan yung pinaka-kailangan kong marinig, which is about constitutional reform. Alam nyo, mga kababayan, alam natin na ang gobyerno natin sa Pilipinas ay ang dami nang nagastos dahil sa COVID-19, ang daming repatriation flights, yung mga gastos para sa mga OFW na nawalan ng trabaho na kinakailangan i-quarantine pagdating sa Pilipinas. So, gastos ng gobyerno yan. Mga ayuda, ang dami talagang gastos ng gobyerno. And we know na nangailangang humiram ng pera ang ating gobyerno. So, anong gagawin para mabayaran ng utang na yan, hindi ba? Importante talaga na matanggal sana itong mga 60-40 at ibang mga anti-foreign direct investment restrictions sa 1987 Constitution kasi ito yung mga sagabal na pumipigil sa pagpasok ng mga foreign direct investors sa Pilipinas para sana'y dumami ang mga trabaho. Ngayon, alam natin lahat, 'di ba, tayo nandito tayo sa Singapore. Kayo lahat, 'di ba, based sa Singapore.
Yes.
Alam natin na ang sekreto ng first world ng Singapore ay yung ginawa ni Lee Kuan Yew na naging sobrang bukas sa pagpasok ng foreign direct investors at lagi niyang inuulit-ulit yan sa lahat ng speeches niya. Simple lang ang ginawa ng Singapore, naging bukas kami. Hindi kami nagkaroon ng mga restriction, yung mga 60-40, 60-40 na yan. In fact, si Lee Kuan Yew noong 1992, pumunta siya sa Pilipinas at pinag-usapan niya yung mga 60-40 na yan. Sinabi niya rin na yung pagkakaroon natin ng American-style presidential system ay isang sagabal dahil sa gridlock. Alam natin ng USA, nakailang shutdown sila at magulo talaga ang sistema ng presidential. Mga kababayan, alam natin na tayo sa Asia, ang Pilipinas, gumagamit ng presidential system tulad lang ng USA, which buti na lang sa kanila ay sila yung largest immigrant nation in the world kaya medyo nababawi nila yung kapalpakan ng presidential system. Pero ang iba nating mga kasama sa gumagamit ng presidential system ay ang mga bansang nasa Latin America at iilan na nasa sa Africa. Halos lahat ng gumagamit ng presidential system ay palpak at halos lahat naman na gumagamit ng parliamentary ay medyo umaangat. At yung mga mahihirap na bansa na dating hindi parliamentary, tas nag-parliamentary sila, umaangat ng mabilis tulad ng Ethiopia. So, ang daming kinakailangan gawing pagbabago, lalong-lalo na yung pagtatanggal ng 60-40 na yan para dumami sana mga trabaho sa Pilipinas. Unfortunately, hindi siya napag-usapan. At yun sana ang kinakailangan para sa Pilipinas. Kasi nga, alam nyo, in the rest of ASEAN, the ASEAN region, itong Indonesia at Vietnam, sa gitna mismo ng COVID na pandemya, ay nagano sila, yung kanilang mga mambabatas ay talagang round the clock nagtrabaho para kung ano man yung mga pangit sa kanilang mga batas na medyo nakaka-turn off sa mga investors, ay tinatanggal talaga nila. Kung ano mang mga restriction, regulation, o ano pa dyan mga red tape, tinanggal nila. Taxes na matataas, binabaan nila. Bakit? Kasi gustong-gusto nitong mga dalawang bansang to, Vietnam at Indonesia, na makaakit sila ng mga investors na naandun sa China ngayon. Yung mga American companies, mga European companies, mga Korean at Japanese companies at Taiwanese companies na nasa China, gusto nilang iakit yung mga yan na wag na kayo dyan sa China, dito na lang kayo sa amin. Kasi ang dami sa mga kumpanyang yan, nagsabi na nga a few months ago na nagdadalawang isip na sila sa China dahil sa unang-una ang COVID nandun sa China nagsimula. Alalang-alala natin 2002 dun din sa China nagsimula yung SARS. Tapos ang daming mga ganyang problema na galing sa China. Secondly, ang China ay meron din yung trade war with the US at ang China rin tumataas din ang kanilang cost living standards. Yan, yung nagiging mas mahal na ang costs nila. So, itong mga kumpanyang ito, marami sa kanila nagsabi, lipat na lang kaya kami sa Southeast Asia kung saan mas mura, walang conflict sa US, walang COVID, ganyan. Itong dalawang bansang to, Vietnam and Indonesia, talagang nagkadarapa para kunin talaga nila yung mga investors na yan. At ngayon, may mga bilyon-bilyon ng mga investments na pumasok ngayon sa Indonesia at sa Vietnam. Ang Pilipinas, paano? Nga. Walang pumapasok na mga investors dahil ang dami nating mga restrictions Nandiyan yung mga 60-40 natin. Kaya hindi siya surprise mga kababayan kung bakit ang Pilipinas ay isa sa mga pinaka-dependent sa OFW remittances. Bakit tayo isa sa mga bansa na sana nandun sana sa Pilipinas pumupunta ang mga kumpanya dahil magaling tayo mag-Ingles, hardworking tayo at mababait. Hindi tulad ng sa ibang mga bansa, hindi ko na sasabihin sino, magagaling nga sila pero mayayabang naman, medyo masama ang mga ugali. Tulad dito, may paminsan ganyan, di ba? Tapos sa mga ibang bansa, friendly sila pero hindi naman ganun kasipag. Tayong mga Pilipino, friendly tayo at masipag. Tapos magaling pa tayo mag-Ingles. Pero bakit hindi sila pumupunta sa Pilipinas, yung mga kumpanya? Ako, sa dami kasi active ako dati sa mga expat group dito sa Singapore. At ang dami kasi dati, hindi ko alam kung naalala nyo, madalas ako nagsa-stand-up comedy ako at lagi akong linalapitan ng mga matataas na rango ng mga Western expats. Kinukuha nila akong maging host sa kanilang mga dinner and dance, ganyan. At nakakausap ko sila. At lahat sila bilib sa Pilipino. Lahat sila nagsasabi, you know, Orion, we actually like Filipinos. You know, you guys are really great. You're really talented. You know, you're very hardworking. We'd like to really set up shop in the Philippines. The only reason why we can't set up shop in the Philippines is because your laws, your constitution, prevents us from doing so. Pare-parehong naririnig ko. So, yung para sa akin nakita ko yan, yung rason kung bakit hindi sila pumapasok sa Pilipinas. So, kaya ako talagang matagal ko nang pinaglalaban itong pagtatanggal ng mga 60-40, yung mga pagbabago ng ating sistema para maging mas episyente, mas maganda sana, mas estable. Wala ang nangyayari tuwing pinag-uusapan yung constitutional reform na sinisiraan ng mga kalaban na cha-cha raw, cha-cha-cha-cha, ganyan. Sinasabi lagi nila, term extension, no election, puro mga fake news, puro wrong information ang sinasabi nila. At ngayon, tingin ko ang nangyari, itong si President Duterte, parang ayaw na lang niyang magkaroon ng gulo, hindi na lang niya binanggit. Which I feel is bad kasi yung kung ano man yung binabanggit niya sa SONA, yun yung nagiging policy Kapag sinabi niyang, we are going to pursue constitutional reform. And I don't care what you think about it because it has been researched. Sana yun ang sinabi niya, it has been researched by the top economists of the Philippines and around the world. Now, we need these kinds of reforms. That we need to get rid of the 60-40. Ang dami na nagsasabi ng ganyan. Yung federalism, kailangan yan sa bansa natin dahil ano tayo ang bansa natin mga isla-isla, mga hindi tayo isang landmass. Ano tayo? Archipelagic tayo. Para tayong Switzerland. Federalism ang Switzerland dahil iba-iba yung lengguwahe nila. Ganun din tayo sa Pilipinas. Hindi naman tayo lahat Tagalog. May Cebuano ako. May iba Ilonggo, may iba Ilocano, may iba mga Tausug. Ganun, iba-iba. So, mas bagay sa atin mag-federalism. Mas bagay sa atin magkaroon ng parliamentary system. At mas bagay sa atin na tanggalin natin yung mga 60-40 na yan. Pero hindi na pag-usapan. So ano mangyayari? Diba?
I think ang question ko, Orion, is etong sitwasyon kasi natin ngayon na nasa pandemic tayo, is it the right time? How do we weigh? How do we balance?
It is absolutely the right time to talk about it. It is absolutely what the other countries in the region have been doing. And I don't take that excuse na kasi nasa loob tayo ng pandemic, bakit ang mga Indonesia at Vietnam gumagamit sila ng Zoom o nitong StreamYard, gumagamit sila ng mga teleconferencing, yung kanilang mga mambabatas para mapag-aksyonan yung mga dapat baguhin sa konstitusyon, sa mga batas nila. Tayo, pwede rin sana natin gawin pero wala Lagi na lang fake news ang pinag-uusapan. Kami na lang sa correct movement ang naglalaban na parang we're trying our best to fight against all the fake news na pinagkakalat ng napakaraming walang alam tungkol sa constitutional reform. Sayang talaga. Ito na lang sana ang last chance natin para gumanda ang Pilipinas. To be honest, I'm really thinking ngayon, maybe it's time to migrate na lang. I mean, honestly, di ba? Ano bang aanin natin ng Pilipinas kung hindi tayo makakapagbigay ng magandang future sa ating mga anak at mga anak ng ating mga anak? Di ba? Yun ang mangyayari. Yun sana ang last hope natin. But it wasn't talked about. Ang dami pa dyan yung mga kontra ng kontra.
On the other hand naman, ano naman sa tingin mo yung positive notes sa mga nabanggit ni Pangulong Duterte sa kanyang SONA?
Okay, I'll have to get going after this because my meeting is going to be starting now.
So,
the nice thing na napag-usapan niya is yung kanyang galit sa mga oligarchs. Yan. Maganda yung pinag-usapan niyang ganon. So, I think yan, mabuti na sinabun niya si Drilon dun sa kanyang mga... si Drilon, isa yan sa mga laging kumukontra sa mga reforma Yun lang talaga. Actually, ang daming okay naman yung mga sinabi pero talaga there was just one thing I wanted to hear and that was constitutional reform. And unfortunately, I didn't hear it. And that's why I feel really bad. And unfortunately, I have to go to my next meeting.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I can join again if right after matapos yung meeting ko. I'm really sorry.
No worries.
Having a meeting
All right.
Okay, guys.
Salamat.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Orion Perez Dumdum, ang principal co-founder ng Correct Movement. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Orion,
Balik ako
for
mamaya
joining
pagkatapos
us.
ng meeting ko.
Sure, all right.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Taas na energy.
Taas ng energy.
All right. Yun. May points naman siya, although I'm not sure kung paano talaga mababalanse or kung paano talaga gawin yun. Kasi pag sinabi mong, especially siguro si Attorney Reina, na, paano ba ang pagpapalit ng konstitusyon? Gaano ba kabilis yan? Gaano ba kahirap bago mapalitan? Kasi iba yun sa pagpapalit o pag-aamyenda ng law sa pagpapalit o pag-aamyenda ng konstitusyon. It would take like years ba to change that constitution? Can you enlighten us on that?
Hindi ako masyadong refreshed, pero may certain ways to get the ball rolling on constitutional reform. I think kaya yun nasabi ni Orana na he feels bad kasi one of the ways is through Congress nga, through HR and Senate, kung sana magkaroon ng move to amend our constitution. Medyo mahirap siya. I think hindi ako nagkakamali. Hindi ba nasabi na yun ng Pangulo in the last SONA na hindi na niya, parang hindi na para sa panahon niya, hindi na para sa term niya yung pagpapalit ng gobyerno. Parang i-leave na niya sa susunod yon dahil hindi niya na kaya. Parang ganun. Kung tamang pagkakaalala ko.
Parang naalala ko nga, binanggit niya yan.
Siya nasabing ganun.
Pero isa kasi yan sa mga ano niya, plataforma niya in the beginning, 'di ba? Gusto niya talagang gawing federalism yung system natin. Although marami din talagang hesitant diyan. I mean, kasi yung maturity ng voters, eto naman syempre I'm not an expert on this, pero yun tingin ko personally na yung maturity ng mga voters ay hindi nga familiar dun sa current system natin. Kasi 'di ba yung sistema natin, which I think also needs to be reformed. Sa school 'di ba nagme-memorize tayo sino yung senator ngayon, sino yung kongresista without really going deep into ano yung klase ng ano yung gobyerno, ano yung ginagawa, ano yung function. Naka-focus tayo sa personality instead dun sa function. 'Di ba? So hindi hinog yung I mean, so medyo tingin ko hindi pa ganun ka-mature, pero so dapat maraming steps na gawin, and I think meron namang iba na ginagawa siguro nila yung mga educational campaign. Pero parang mahirap nga siguro yun.
Well, I think there have been attempts before for constitutional reform, pero yun na nga, dahil sa hirap, hindi siya talaga nag-push through, di ba? So,
pero naniniwala ako, attorney at saka partner, na if there's a will, there's a way. Yung parang ganon. So, kahit nasabihin mo na, sige, mabagal, pero sabi nga ni Orion kanina, bakit in other countries, they spend probably the whole days and nights just to be able to complete this. In fact, for example, yung kaso nga ng ABS-CBN, di ba? Nagawa nila kung ano yung tina-target nila na mapasara kaagad siya within this span of time. So, kung talagang gugustuhin nila, meron silang magagawa supposedly. At least makikita sana natin na nagro-roll na yung ball. At least mas ma-appreciate pa sana natin yun. Mga ganun. So, I think medyo, yun nga, siguro dahil sa ano yung priorities din ng Kongreso at that point in time, kaya sila nagiging ganun. Siguro hindi to naging urgent bill para sa kanila kasi, for example, yung Bayanihan Act as 1, di ba, naging urgent bill siya, and they were able to have that law passed within how many, 1 day, 2 days lang? So, kung talagang gugustuhin nila, merong paraan na magagawa siguro sana ng gobyerno.
May point ka.
Siguro sila di ba? Sa pagdedesisyon na yan, hindi pa siguro inaaral din ng iba. Pero meron pang hindi natin alam kung ano ang mangyayari sa mga susunod pa.
Nabanggit din pala, kailangan siguro yung mga ibang topics pa niya, nabanggit yung National Disease and Prevention Management Authority. Magandang simula yun. Although ito ay hindi lang sa mga pandemic katulad nito. Actually, last year, nabanggit na nga ni Pangulong Duterte yung pag-establish niya ng risk management something, which was supposed to be focusing on natural disasters, like for example, volcanic eruptions, mga ganun. So, parang last year discuss na yun, pero hindi ko alam kung nag-move ba tong ganitong mga activities, mga ganitong discussions. Kung natatandaan niyo yung sinabi nga na merong bill na ginawa si Senator Defensor Santiago noon with regards to the establishment of yung parang ganito, yung National Disease and Prevention Management Authority na hindi nag-roll out. So, ito na sana yung makakatulong sa atin para mas na-mitigate ang pandemic na ito. Pero yun, medyo reactive tayo, hindi tayo naging mas proactive during those times.
Yeah. Pero nakita mo ng kailangan isa batas at ang dami-dami pa. So, hindi natin alam kung ano yung sa mga na-highlight ng Pangulo dito sa SONA, kung alin dito ang ma-check off natin. Tignan natin kung ano yung ma-actionan ng Congress.
Yep. Siguro mag-last words na lang tayo mga ka-rated G, no? Ano na lang siguro yung pinaka-importanteng narinig nyo para sa SONA na ito at na-appreciate nyo? And ano yung i-expect nyo sana na sa by this coming year or this coming 12 months? Ano yung mas maging priorities, mas maging actions na gagawin ng Pangulo?
Mauna na ako.
Yes. Go, Atty.
Para sa akin, maganda yung narinig kong pagbibigay ng priority sa mga OFWs. Siyempre, OFW tayo. So, magandang marinig ba na naiisip naman yung kapakanan natin ng Pangulo, ng ating Pangulo. And I think second of all, very important din yung move towards taking things online. Matagal na kailangan maging internet-based ng napakasimpleng mga bagay na kaya namang magawa sana. So I think the fact na na-highlight ito this SONA, I hope na more of our government agencies will be able to give those services that they have online. Yun.
Right.
Yeah.
Ikaw, partner.
Ako naman, yun yung binanggit ko kanina, yung sa education system at medyo related sa binanggit ni Attorney Rania ng yung paggamit ng ICT, ma-migrate ng mga processes online. So very interested ako kung paano magpa-pan out, paano ang execution nito na related pa rin sa COVID na hindi naman talaga hopefully mag-suffer ng husto yung mga estudyante, yung mga guro, no, yung quality of learning sana naman kumbaga hindi masakripisyo. Dahil nga dito sa pandemya. So yun ang pinaka-major ko na take away at medyo din ako waiting to see kung anong mangyayari pa. Yung mga na-name drop, yung mga pinanggigilan. So, I'm gonna be I'm very curious kung ano ang mangyayari in the next few months.
Sabi nga nila, abangan ng susunod na kabanata.
Ikaw, partner.
Ako, of course, yung sinabi nga ni Attorney Rain na yung tungkol sa mga OFWs, isa sa mga priorities na sana mabigyan nga ng priorities din yung mga OFWs. But other than that, well, I was hoping na makarinig ng actions on how to elevate not just the lives of the Filipinos, but of course, to alleviate yung mga nawalan ng trabaho. Kasi importante na marinig natin kung paano ba matutulungan ang pagdami ng mga Filipinos, not only in Philippines, but also for the overseas Filipinos na bumabalik ng Pilipinas. Paano tutulungan ng government in terms of generating jobs. Kasi di ba, for example, dito sa Singapore, talagang meron nga silang certain department, not department, but an agency na sila yung para nagko-coordinate ng pagta-transition ng mga ibang jobs to become, from this kind of job to become a different job. Kasi meron silang job, anong tawag doon? Parang job, may term sila doon eh. Ano?
Tama ba? Yung retool ba yung sinasabi mo? Yung diversifying yung
diversify nila yung mga kanila, yung mga Singaporeans dito. So sana meron din ganung mas concrete na actions na I was hoping na marinig from the government on that aspect. Pero na-appreciate ko naman na at least may focus sa OFWs. Sana ipagpatuloy niya na i-push yung mga agencies on making things really more effective and more efficient. Yun yung talagang sana makita ko para at least lahat ng tao bumilis. Kasi parang iniisip ko na parang kultura na kasi yun parang naging since nung bata pa lang tayo ganun na kasi siya. We are too okay, sarili ko lang opinion to, yung parang may slow, hindi tayo ganun we take our time. Parang gano'n. Unlike dito sa Singapore na talagang mabilisan. Although dito naman medyo minsan masyadong OA yung pagiging mabilis. Pero it's good. It pays to be fast na naman na sobrang mabilis yung mga nangyayari, yung gano'n. So what am I looking forward in the next 12 months? Kung ano yung mga nabanggit niya, kahit hindi man specific yung actions na naka-indicate doon, sana hindi na umulit yung kung ano yung nabanggit niya noong 2019, na nabanggit ulit niya ngayong 2020, sana hindi umulit na naman sa 2020 na parang walang nangyari within the next 12 months. So yung mga sinasabi natin like telecom, yung mga binanggit natin on yung mga ano ba tawag doon? Basta yung lahat ng mga nabanggit niya noong 2019 at nabanggit ulit niya ngayon, sana hindi na ulit mabanggit in 2021 State of the Nation address niya. All right?
Yan. Abangan natin ng ang huli niyang SONA next year.
Right. Okay.
Wow.
And with that, marami pong salamat sa lahat ng mga nanood. Medyo pagod na siguro kayo lahat, medyo nagsipag-alisan na yung mga kaibigan natin, Pero anyways, marami pong salamat sa inyong pagsubaybay sa ating special news coverage ng State of the Nation address ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Mula po dito sa aming tahanan, ako po si Jun Rigonan, kasama si Attorney Rain Joya.
Ako naman po si Dazzelyn Zapata.
At ito po ang Rated J special coverage ng State of the Nation address ni Pangulong Duterte ngayong 2020. Marami pong salamat at magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat.
Okay, salamat.